Hello, Midwest House. Oh, we got some cheers. Okay. All right. We're going to start our next panel soon, but first, I'm doing my assigned duty. For those who want to join us, come on in. Come join us on the seats up here. Thank you. I'm already getting some cheers. All right. All right, let's do it. Just a quick attendance roll call here. Who's from the Midwest? Yeah? All right, do we got some Michiganders in the house or some Michiganians? Woo! All right, who's a Detroiter? Woo! All right, I like it. I like it. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for coming to the Midwest House. Thank you for being here at South by Southwest. My name is Will Butler. I'm with the Detroit Regional Partnership. We're the regional economic development agency for Metro Detroit, and really excited to be here partnering with the Midwest House and New Lab and Michigan Central on this exciting panel. So I'm pleased to help present and introduce this next panel, Detroit Drives Forward, how Detroit is becoming the next big tech hub. There we go. Yes. So if you haven't been to Detroit recently, for those who are not Midwesterners or Michiganders or Detroiters, first of all, shame on you. Make sure to come and visit Detroit as soon as you can. But you know, the city's changed really dramatically over the last 10, 15 years. This is true both in the built environment, where you now see cranes in the sky, $16 billion invested in greater downtown Detroit since 2016, but also in the city's economy, which is increasingly focused in mobility, autonomy, electrification, clean tech, and beyond. Actually, last year, Detroit was named by Startup Genome as the #1 globally emerging startup hub in the world. Yeah. There we go. Cheers for that. All right. Personally, I don't think any of this comes in more tactile view than what you're seeing with New Lab and the Michigan Central Innovation District, which is a 30-acre campus in Detroit's Corktown neighborhood, which is the oldest neighborhood in the city of Detroit. You know, if you head over there when you come and visit, right, you're going to see a revitalized former Michigan Central station, which is going to be opening in June. You're going to see first-in-the-nation deployments of wireless inductive charging, in-road charging. You're going to see a first-in-the-nation deployment of a connected autonomous vehicle lane along Michigan Avenue right next to the train station. And you're going to see hundreds of startups working in new disruptive technologies inside the book depository operated by New Lab here. So, you know, this district is really becoming an anchor, and it's becoming a beacon of the city and our future, our past, but also our future as one of the major innovation hubs in this country. And so instead of just hearing about it from me, you're going to hear about it from the experts and the people on the ground. So without further ado, we're going to bring up the panel for Detroit Drives Forward.
This is through. 5-5.
All right. Hello, everybody. That was a great intro. You really brought the energy, got everyone hyped up. All going to take our seats, and then we'll get started. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm Kristine Colosimo. I'm the VP of Marketing at New Lab, and I have joining me today Cam Lawrence, the CEO of New Lab, right here. Mark De La Verne, Director of Economic Innovation and Policy at Michigan Central. Kameale Terry, CEO and co-founder of CharterHelp, and Somnath Ray, CEO and co-founder of Clip. So Kameale and Som are both members of New Lab, startup founders and members, and then Cam and Mark will be talking about the work we're doing in Detroit and all the exciting stuff happening there. So Cam, if you can kick us off, what is New Lab?
First off, great to be here. Thanks for having us. This is an awesome event, and thank you to the hosts. New Lab's a venture platform, so what we're focusing on is creating ecosystems where deep tech and climate tech founders can really have community, build their products, and the next stage of what we do is bring together government and industry partners to help them commercialize their products through pilots that we help run, as well as eventually providing access to capital That's really what we think we can have a huge impact on the founder journey. Community ecosystem, helping them develop products, helping them commercialize their products, and then capitalize their companies to end up being successful. So that's what we're trying to build here at New Lab, and really happy to be part of this amazing panel that is doing the type of work that we want to help support.
Awesome. And New Lab has been working with Michigan Central, and we opened New Lab in Detroit about a year ago. So I'm super delighted to have Mark as the Michigan Central representative because he represents every group that New Lab works with. He has worked for the government. He has worked at a startup called Kameale, who's a member of New Lab, and he's at Michigan Central. So literal expert. Mark, can you tell us about a little bit about your journey and then what you're trying to accomplish at Michigan Central?
Yeah, sounds good. So up until about 8 years ago, I was just a consultant floating around, trying to be smart, and got recruited by Mayor Duggan to lead a new office called Office of Mobility Innovation. So spent 4 years working with the mayor and the team there, learning lots of different things, particularly around politics and how government really works. And after 4 years, got the opportunity to be the second employee at a startup called Kameale, building smart roads. So got the opportunity to work at literally the earliest stage of a company and seeing it grow and seeing that I like the early stage and not the later stage because it got not as chaotic. And it was like, this is what I'm for. So then did a brief stint doing some consulting. And then took my third job in a year at Michigan Central. And leading economic innovation, and really the opportunity to put all the pieces that I've done, but also passions for Detroit and Michigan and growing the economy, but also getting to work with brilliant folks and founders to help accelerate their ideas. So what we're trying to do at Michigan Central essentially is to be a center of gravity for tech in the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan. And we're doing that through a number of different ways. One, creating an extraordinary place. I think if you've been there, you've seen it. The building is like no other in the state of Michigan, let alone probably the country, both just from an overall space, but also the shops that we offer and the ability for founders and innovators to do real work. But offering world-class programming. And building an amazing community of founders, amazing community with the folks that are our neighbors around there, building collaboration both in the ecosystem regionally across the state, and then ultimately just creating a culture. Lauren and Kelly from our team were up in the last panel talking about all the work in art and culture, and just creating like this unique overall place and experience that's going to achieve all the goals that we're going to need to build this economy.
Awesome. Well, if you haven't seen New Lab at Michigan Central, we're going to let you see it now. Did I click it? Yeah. Did it work?
Yeah, so if you want to do voiceover, is there sound?
I think there is.
So, Book Depository is a 270,000 square foot building, Albert Kahn designed. When everyone looked at the train station, you wouldn't look at this building, right? Like it was just a square box next to the train station, which is what everybody focused on. But the team, and in collaboration with New Lab, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about this, has taken this thing that no one's seen and it's created just like this remarkable place for innovators. From a space standpoint, from a shop standpoint, just an amazing place to work. Like when I left Kameale, was talking with New Lab Michigan Central, I was like, I'm not sure what I'm doing next, but I need to sit in this building because it's just so inspirational in the collisions that you're able to have to make it happen.
We did it. Good voiceover work. All right, Sam, we're going to jump to you. Give us, I'm going to ask you to do what founders do best. Give us an elevator pitch of what Clip is.
Hey everyone, it's fantastic to be here. I'm Som, I'm the co-founder of a clean mobility company called Clip. I brought this in my backpack so I could show you what it is. So we built these devices. These are the world's first plug and play upgrades that you can attach to any regular bicycle and turn them into an e-bike. So it attaches in a few seconds, and our mission is to essentially lower the barrier to bicycling for everyone in cities.
Perfect.
Individual commute has a significant impact on individual carbon footprint. 50 to 60% of all urban passenger commutes are between 3 to 6 miles. What we are trying to do is say that, hey, a bicycle is perfect for that. You can impact your individual carbon footprint by between 15 to 20% easily. And that stacks up. Being here, you're part of this much larger network that New Lab connects you to, which brings us some of our most avid advocates and champions.
So that was New Lab in Brooklyn, where Sam is a member, and we'll get into that a little bit more and kind of how Sam is exploring our ecosystem in Detroit. But before that, I want to introduce Kameale. So Kameale, give us the elevator pitch for CharterHelp.
Sure. Thank y'all so much for having me. I'm Kameale. I'm the CEO of CharterHelp. We are obsessed with EV charging reliability and uptime. We are some crazy folks where we don't think that technology actually replaces humans. We think that you still need humans, but then technology will couple it. And so we study data from all across the United States, and specifically data for work that was done in the field when fixing an electric vehicle charging station. We utilize that data capture in order, one, to understand how do you reskill green workforces that are coming into this industry? How do you build proficiency while folks are doing the work? And then two, as we deploy more IoT assets and connected devices, how should we think about this system in regards to operations and maintenance? Today, CharterHelp, we serve across 17 states. We did our 18,000 field service interaction back in October. And I guess the reason why I'm here is that we launched our third hub in the great city of Detroit alongside great partners like Michigan Central. I'm looking at Mika, but I know you two, but Mika and Clarinda over at Michigan Central. So super happy to be here and to chat more about what we've been doing.
Awesome, thank you. All right. Giving up on the clicker.
When we think of technology, we tend to focus on the product. But here at CharterHelp, we understand that the product means nothing without the people. Like the people who get up and commute to work at 5 a.m. Or the people who understand what it takes to get the job done. Yeah, that's our type of people. The type that daydream on their lunch break of how to make the world a better place and how they can do their part. We love those type of people because those type of people understand the importance of family and the power of community. Those are the people who still find their reasons to smile despite how their day went. And when we have those type of people, we can have one goal. And for CharterHelp, at the end of the day, we know that when it's time to get the job done, if our people are good, then the service we will provide is good. And when the service we provide is good, then business is good. And we all love good business. And of course, here at CharterHelp, we understand the importance of
Good business.
good service,
Good people.
Awesome. All right, we're done with the video portion. We made it through all of the tech, possible tech issues that could happen. So let's get into it. Detroit has obviously an amazing history. It's the epicenter of the car industry. And now New Lab and Michigan Central have teamed up to make it the leader in mobility innovation. So Cam, why did New Lab choose Detroit to open a New Lab in, our second flagship location?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, as Kristine mentioned, we originally started in Brooklyn, and we created this amazing physical space where 200 companies call home in Brooklyn. And what what we found is when you create these amazing spaces, then it is a community that startups can thrive in. So we've had a lot of people that have come from across the world to ask us, like, how do we replicate, what you built in Brooklyn in our region? And when that opportunity presented itself with Michigan Central in Detroit, it was actually really amazing because we saw this amazing infrastructure assets that they have in that market, amazing large corporate players that were really invested in the future of Detroit. So with that perspective, it really had all the ingredients for success. So we had some great sponsors in Ford and Michigan Central, a very committed local government that really wanted to make sure innovation was at the forefront of economic growth for Detroit. And then now it's been this amazing story where we're seeing New Lab at Michigan Central be kind of a center for hope and revitalization of the community in Detroit, and an amazing group of founders that are creating really inspiring businesses at New Lab, and we're starting to see the engine really start to grow. So I couldn't be more proud of the work being done, and I know there's a number of New Lab member companies in the audience today, so thank you for joining us. The work you guys are doing is just outstanding. So.
Yeah, speaking of which, if you are a New Lab member, can you raise your hand? Nice. Thanks for joining us. Round of applause. Can we click to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, amazing. Mark, why did Michigan Central want to deploy the New Lab platform as part of its own platform?
Yeah, so I'll actually even go pre-Michigan Central. When I was at the mayor's office, we were looking at a different site for an innovation center, and we had somebody scan, and we always came back to the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and particularly like your signature picture of light coming in and just this beautiful space. So before any of this, like, that was just on people's radar in the city. But in 2018, when the initial press conference came out and Bill Ford said, we're going to build the future of mobility, everybody felt really good. Then it was up to Carolina Plazinski, my boss, to actually make it happen, right? And it's an easy thing to do the press conference and we're going to build the buildings, but how you're actually going to do this and do it from scratch, or not from scratch, but building on some things and really doing it. And you look at the building; it's a gigantic building. It's 270,000 square feet, and needed somebody to help us fill the building up, but not just fill it up, but create the overall culture and vibe that's going to be necessary to have people want to just come, be, stay, scale, and be able to kind of create that, as well as have that laser focus on mobility and now climate too, to have that partnership. So all those reasons, the idea of having New Lab as our essentially strategic partner to be able to build this overall ecosystem that we're having to do. And it's gone, fantastic. I mean, we're at less than a year, we're at 90 companies. We've got to get a lot more companies, obviously, but as we're thinking about, how we're looking to figure out, utilizing a partnership that we have with the city and state to activate other resources. The Port of Monroe being a really good example where nothing close, but the idea, New Lab comes to and says, port infrastructure is something that could be really valuable for startups, access to it, and said, all right, how do we begin to put these into play? So I don't think some of these things were even thought of when it originally was developed, but to really have somebody who's vested in success and the mutual success has been really important. I've been very happy.
Very well said, and I think that's where the secret to success in building these technology hubs really does come from public-private partnerships. Companies like New Lab partnering with Michigan Central, coming up with how do we create kind of a playground for top-tier startups to demonstrate commercialization of their technologies. Mark mentioned the Port of Monroe. That's a great example. We've also have a transportation innovation zone, a couple square miles, where it enables rapid permitting so that we can run pilots in that region really quickly without all the typical red tape that you would normally have to deal with. So it's what do startups need to have access to be successful, and then our groups will work together and get the constituents that are necessary to kind of unlock those opportunities, and doing that at a really high degree of velocity to open up opportunities for startups to scale. So, and I think when we can do that, we can really tilt the odds in the favor of the startups that we're looking to support. Because I mean, ultimately, Mark and I, like, when you guys win, we win, and when we create an ecosystem where their startups are winning at scale, then you've got a strong and thriving economy in Detroit. That's what we're looking to build together.
We'll stop talking about the building after this question. Kameale, do you remember your first time walking into the building? What was your first impression of the New Lab space?
Yeah, so, I mean, funny enough, I feel like we dated Detroit a lot before we made the commitment of standing up a space there. So I actually had the opportunity to go to see the building when it was still being done. So when I walked into the building, I had a hat on. I was with Clarinda from Michigan Central, and what we were talking about was what could it look like for CharterHelp to replicate our workforce development program in Detroit. So I had to have a lot of imagination. Then Clarinda was like, it's going to be great, and that's going to be there, and that's going to be there, and then you can train here. And I'm like, okay, girl. But when I came back and we decided to start working on developing a program there, I was just so excited for the opportunity to bring in folks from the community to do training in a building such as that, right? Because when we think about the future and we think about technology, you know, you may not always couple that with the blue-collar worker, but we believe that the future, the blue-collar worker steps into that. And so for them to do training in such a place was hugely important for us. So we just made us more aligned in why we, you know, popped the question, and now we're in Detroit. But yeah.
I love it.
I hope we didn't disappoint you.
What did you say?
I hope we didn't disappoint you.
No. You went above and beyond.
But you know, this is ultimately what we're trying. We're trying to be the platform, right, at Michigan Central. And obviously, we've had tons of strategic advice from New Lab. But you know, how we've built out the parts of the basement to support like what you need. We've got other things in the books to work with our partners. So it's not like us dictating and saying like we have all the answers. You know, we've got the ability to say like, we're trying to create a space where people want to be. Help us do that and give us your thoughts on how we can do it, to the point of like, you know, Sam here is just like, you've got some really nasty space. I would love to go use that space. And that's, you know, all of a sudden we're starting to see demand. So it's being able to take all this input and create the overall platform.
Absolutely. And you may be wondering, why are the two startups here not from Michigan? And the reason is that I think what we are creating and what Detroit has to offer is so substantial that it's really attracting a lot of people to come there. And to your point about the worker, right, one of the reasons we wanted to move New Lab and have a New Lab in Detroit is the mobility industry and the car industry has a huge group of skilled workers that now can reskill to do other things. And so that's a huge component here. And Sam, that's a perfect segue into, you know, one, I think what has the benefit been to being at New Lab as a startup, and then why are you kind of looking to Detroit to potentially do some stuff there as well?
Right. So we, you know, originated at the New Lab. We started the company in Brooklyn, in the Brooklyn New Lab, and New Lab's just been, you know, the most sort of intense ecosystem of connecting us to other, you know, makers, you know, people working in the climate space. So it's, you know, being part of like this group of others who are in the same boat, working on the same kind of problems, helped us get to where we are. New Lab's also been, you know, very sort of seminal in having us or helping us find the right set of investors, the right set of, you know, outside of just pure sort of builders. So, but as we kind of, you know, at the stage that we are, you know, about to start shipping units across the country. We have about, you know, 300 units shipped out across 42 states. We have another 1,200 that we're going to be shipping out, and we are going to scale up. So we are looking to find the right kind of partners to work with for our distribution and fulfillment. And Detroit is a uniquely sort of located region. And with our partners at Bloom, we are kind of really excited to kick that off towards the end of this year.
Awesome. Yeah. And Bloom is a company, Justin, if you'll raise your hand, that's Justin's company. He also was a Brooklyn member and has made the full move to Detroit, sadly taking his dog with him, who was my work best friend, but it's fine. I'm still getting over it. Cam, do you want to talk a little bit about Bloom and what's happening there?
I feel like Justin, I will not do Justin service, but we're super pumped about it because one of the things that we've seen, and as Sam said, it was a great example, is that we had a cluster of really amazing e-bike companies in Brooklyn, and one of the opportunity that Justin identified was ability to manufacture these e-bike components here in the U.S. A lot of the supply chain, in general, got disrupted in 2021 post-COVID, and so that was, the whole entire world was shambles from, in order to get the products you need to build your product and grow your business. So seeing that opportunity to bring that manufacturing back to the U.S. And from us, like as Mark said, we have the shops to help you to develop your prototypes, but the next stage once you've developed your prototypes is the small batch manufacturing. So that's effectively what Justin's building with Bloom is, small batch manufacturing capacity to fuel the next stage of the e-bike economy. So we couldn't be more proud to have Justin and the Bloom team building that out in a new lab at Michigan Central, and obviously a core component of how we see mobility in cities happening in the future, and just so cool to see that type of work being done in the U.S. as opposed to overseas and shipping those products across the world. We don't need to do that anymore. So seeing that work come back here, and back to the point about workforces, a huge amount of talent in Detroit that knows how to build stuff. So let's put those folks back to work in good jobs building products that we can ship around the world. So that's what we're trying to do with Bloom.
Kameale, now that you've made the jump and you've opened in Detroit, what kind of opportunity has come to CharterHelp in the state of Michigan, Detroit, and beyond?
Yeah, honestly, even before we came to Detroit, we were very, privileged to be connected to a lot of Detroit-based businesses. So one of my first manufacturer partners was actually Natalie King, who's the CEO of Dunamis. I met Carla Walker Miller, who is like the godmother of energy prior to coming to Detroit. So coming now to Detroit, we figured out strategic ways for those partnerships to grow. And so both entities resell reliability as a service, which is our marquee product. And then we also do cross-training. Carla Walker Miller is now an official training partner. Because that was the other thing for us, is that being from South Central Los Angeles and having folks just come into your community doing all types of things, it was important to figure out how do you grow within this community, support the businesses are there, and then how do we all eat together? And so those things being able to be carried through post us being Detroit and expand on has really meant so much to our organization, and it's a great model, right, that we look towards as we move into new cities. And I kind of feel like we're following New Lab, because my second hub was Brooklyn, and this is my third. So I'm almost like, New Lab, where are you going next? Because maybe we might be there too.
I'll do my best to build more so you can follow us around as best you can.
So I think, Kameale, you had also mentioned that it had opened up from just a business perspective, commercialization, bringing contracts. When you expand other places and you don't have maybe the support of a platform, do you find that immediately follows, or do you feel like that was unique to moving to Detroit?
No, we learned for the hard way. CharterHelp, we turned 5 years old this year, and so we've been doing this for a little while. In my second year into business, I was like, I'm gonna be in all 50 states. We quickly learned that's very expensive. And so we actually scaled back, and we scaled back because we would try to go into different cities. Well, one, we were trying to go into states instead of cities and hubs. We would go there without partners or understanding the landscape, and we would fail, and it would be expensive, or even trying to figure out what workforce development program is the most impactful, who actually is actually recruiting from the community, and who has a wraparound of support services and to allow for the workers to be successful. So we only learned how to do Detroit because of a lot of failure, and it's been incredible to see now we're looking at other cities and we're like, okay, well, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have that? And because we see that that is the easiest way for a hyper-growth startup like ourselves to be successful as we expand throughout the U.S.
I love that. So I would say any of you three can answer this question, or maybe you all can, but what are the greatest challenges in building a mobility business?
Like you guys are an aggregation of information.
I-
What have
well,
you heard?
I mean, I can speak from my previous job. You know, it's hard to demonstrate to get the revenue going, right, from a customer standpoint. You know, it's and particularly I'd say even now, right, where you've got the traditional OEM market scaling back on the innovation side. So being able to find customers, I think, is the biggest piece. And ultimately, I think that's one of the things that we're going to keep trying to do at Michigan Central. We've got healthy startups. The next piece will be opening the train station on June 6th. And the idea of June 6th in train station is we're going to have a lot of customers there as well. So that we're able to start to create these opportunities for companies either locally or nationally, globally that want to be here, sending their innovation teams, seeing all the innovation that's happening and be able to creating it. But I mean, each company here has lots of different challenges, but I think all customers being the one probably that sews everyone together.
I could talk a bit about, Clip and the challenges of building, a mobility company, which is, a new type of mobility, or rather, getting people to adopt something which has been around for, 200 years and get people to kind of use it better. So one is the mindset change, getting people to kind of see that, single occupancy, large SUVs are not the way of the future. There are 80% of all commuters, are ride 6 to 8 miles, so bicycles are perfect for that. So one is that. Then the other is, of course, building like a hardware company. You're building a product which is, has complex electromechanicals. Testing is a big challenge. So New Lab has been an amazing sort of a partner in that, helping us kind of bring people to test units. And so, because people are riding these units after all, so you have to build trust on the product, on the technology. So there's a whole sort of plethora of complexity there.
Yeah, the thing that I would add, because I'm looking at Professor Salika Talbot out of USC that runs autonomous vehicles, and the way that she talks about mobility it's helping us to expand, right? It is the movement of people, goods, services, information. And I think the most exciting thing about this, because it's all hard, building is hard, right? Like that's just what it is. But I think the exciting thing about this is that we get to expand how we do all of those things. And I know I saw the gentleman from Black Tech Saturdays here earlier, and we get to expand who gets to be a part of that conversation. And even being a part of New Lab in these spaces where you get to connect with other CEOs, you get to expand that with people from all across the U.S. that you may not have been able to do that before. And I think because of those reasons, because of the possibility of innovation, expansion, and connection, the hard stuff will always be the hard stuff, but then it makes it worth it, So that's what I like to think about.
I love that. Do you want to add something, Kim?
I love what Kameale just said, and the one thing I would say, and the founders in the room and senior leaders in the room, like the leadership is hard and it's lonely, So you especially when you're a founder, like that's one of the things that I think is so important about the communities that we build is there's other folks trying to solve similar things. It's not the exact same business problem, but there's a certain amount of support you can provide each other and learn from each other, and network that you can tap into with these amazing communities. Which is why I think there's a certain amount of magic in terms of what we're building in New Lab, and part of why we're seeing success rates better for New Lab members than the broader indices is because of that sense of community to offset the loneliness of the founder journey. So I do think while there's like common threads and the common pieces of the struggle, like finding customers, developing your product, testing your product, like, but
Revenue.
that's right, revenue, raising money, all of that stuff, right? All of that stuff is hard, right? It's a grind. So having a community of people that are all trying to solve similar problems together, I think is part of what makes us special.
Can you give us some examples of the cool stuff that is happening in Detroit and at New Lab? I mean, obviously, Electrion installing the first public charging road in the nation. Pretty cool. Other ones that come to mind, Mark and Cam?
I could just go to the people I know in the crowd, and that's easier. I mean, Sam and Nick were Grounded. They're doing EV recreational vehicles, which are really cool. I don't know if you've seen them yet, but they're pretty amazing. I saw David from Livac earlier. He's got an electric all-terrain vehicle, which I've ridden a few times. It's really badass. We talked about Bloom, small batch manufacturing in the EV industry. We talked about the Port of Monroe, where we've got a company called Mythos AI, which is doing autonomous self-driving vessels. They're basically optimizing shipping routes in and out of ports to drive increased efficiency. We talked about the self-driving, the self-charging row, the first one in North America that Electrion built out for us. I'm forgetting about 3 dozen of them, Mark.
Yeah, no, so, Kameale mentioned Johnny earlier at Black Tech Saturdays, but, Johnny, we funded him through Equitable Entrepreneur, I forget the exact title, residence, and basically started this thing, which started with a small group of black folks in tech, and then by the end of the year thing had just like taken over the entire building on a Saturday, and he's just created this entire community, and it's, I'm going to give this self-serving why it's good. We had a company that were looking to make their first hires, and we're really kind of focused on trying to get senior software engineers of color, which is a segment of the market that is a struggle to find. And they were able to connect with somebody who only knew about Michigan Central through Black Tech Saturdays, right? And hopefully it becomes easier in the future for those connections to happen. But just Johnny being able to build that. Megan Ward has built up a similar program, but focusing on women founders, doing more mentorship to be able to grow that. And it's a really big part of what we are trying to do. Over half the founders are either women or people of color in the building, right? And we feel like diversity is core to our goals, but also we feel like it's an attraction piece, right? That to be able to have a set of founders that really looks like the city and looks like what the world is going to look like is an important piece for us as an organization. We've just a few. I mean, we've got a scale fund where we had Mark and Zach from Civilized Cycles. We gave them funding in December, and 6 weeks later, they were zooming around in this awesome electric tricycle that's going to replace freight vehicles, right? And just being able to say, like, go, right? And we've got the shops for you to build. Here's the initial funding to be able to get. Two, we didn't really dig into the CharterHelp cohort, right? Like that's, I've been working there for like 2.5 months, but to see that first cohort graduate, the work that our team with Clorinda and Micah did, but also Brett and the CharterHelp team to be able to get this thing, and now starting to scale, right? Like we have additional partners, the community college, and that's I think what a lot of the power can be here, right? To be able to get some of these things, seed them, and then let them go, right? And whether it's programmatically, it's a startup, whether it's something like Black Tech Saturdays, this is what I think Michigan Central can be, right? As this overall platform to be able to get these things going that are so necessary for the city and state to get where it wants to be with respect to technology.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool infrastructure in Detroit that you just don't have access to in other places. And I think the Port of Monroe is one. You have access to the Great Lakes, one of the most important waterways in the country. We have the Advanced Aerial Innovation Zone where you can do out-of-sight drone flight. So that's pretty crazy. Mark, what else makes Detroit or Michigan, a really special place for a founder to grow a business?
Yeah, so those two pieces, the city of Detroit set up the Transportation Innovation Zone, which Cam mentioned, to make it easier for entrepreneurs and founders that are looking to do work in the public right away to be able to get their thing up and running. Darren from Just Air, who I failed to mention, but now I can talk about him. We provided him with a Scale Fund grant. He was able to be the first company to go through that process to get his sensors up quick. So, part of it is just making it easy, and part of it's also, working with our partners at the city and state to say, here's what we are hearing. How can you also begin to lean into some of these pieces, whether it's infrastructure like the Port of Monroe, whether it's a road like Michigan Avenue or I-94, to show that these are the pieces that folks are going to be needing. But it does create the opportunity of being able to provide access to infrastructure, right? Like that. We can continue to do things in the building. We can continue to look for other aspects that can attract folks. But being able to give access to infrastructure and testing infrastructure, as we've heard clearly from New Lab, is that this is a potential value proposition that's not offered in other places.
Absolutely. Kameale, what advice would you give to any founders who are thinking about expanding to Michigan or wanting to start a business in Michigan?
Yeah, I would say, take time and come down to Michigan Central. I mean, meet the businesses that are already there. And then I think that as long as there's clear, business opportunity, that you can actually be successful there. Nothing hurts a failure but a try. And if it doesn't, work out, you could just take a step back. But I do think it does take something just to visiting some of the local restaurants, the local businesses that are there, and really getting attuned to what's happening there. And I would say if you're in mobility and you haven't been to Detroit and you aren't doing something in Michigan, you got to reorganize your priorities, because mobility is Michigan. That is the epicenter right now of mobility. It is where everything is happening at. The governor is very bullish on mobility there. A lot of the laws and things we had, just as a kind of example, the head of Michigan Transportation came to California to actually present to our assembly members on transportation about the work that was done at Michigan Central. So if you are in mobility in that space, go to Michigan, visit Michigan Central in Detroit, and then connect with the good folks over at New Lab.
MEDC just recorded that, and we'll be asking your permission to run it on loop nonstop.
I have a funding round opened up right now, so.
I love it. You brought up an important topic, which is restaurants. So we are going to have to talk about our favorite restaurants in Detroit now. Mine is Ladder 4 Wine Bar. What is yours? Do you have one?
I go wherever people take me, so I'm not picky.
It's fair. All right, Mark, do you have one?
All right, so if I like you, and we're doing a breakfast meeting, we're going to go to Click on the east side. It's just like an old diner where things really used to happen. Not necessarily all in the up and up, but great history of stuff happening there. So there's lots of great restaurants. I have gotten to the age where actually I'm about to. My daughter's turning 10, so I can start to actually do stuff with my life again. But there is, and my second then would be, so for lunch, if I'm I've had a bad day, so Yum Village is my place to go. A great restaurant. You get the jerk chicken with jollof rice, and your mouth will be on fire, but it's a solid meal. And then dinner, yeah. I mean, the scene has exploded. Selden Standard would be my typical go-to.
I love Selden Standard. Kameale, do you have one you want to pass?
Yeah, if you stay at the Elemental Hotel downtown, across the way, there's a fried chicken spot. They got fried chicken and beer. And then also, my new favorite place, there's a sliders place actually around the corner from Michigan Central. I don't remember the name of it, but it's all
Green Dot
sliders.
Stables, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. That's all.
I love it. Sam, I don't know if you have one, so if you don't, I'll
I'm
volunteer one.
excited to visit very soon after hearing
Now you can take the
all this.
recommendations. Well, I'll tell you, everybody who works in the New Lab prototyping shops, their favorite place is Honeybees, I believe it's
Yeah,
called.
so Honeybees, Mexican grocery, like literally footsteps away. Amazing breakfast burritos, amazing tacos, and then so then around the corner on Thursday and Friday, this is really good micro at this point, but hopefully like the Restaurant Association is ready to hire me. The Anojitos food truck with their burrito and their burrito ramen is also like to die for.
I love it, yeah. Honeybees, I went and I got my entire lunch for $5, which I found like both amazing and alarming. I was like, how can this only be $5? But very, very good. All right, we're ready for closing remarks. And so to do that, I'm going to have you each finish the sentence, the future of mobility is ... So we'll start at the other end. Sam, the future of mobility is what?
I think it's obvious for us. It's right-sized. It's not a giant SUV, single-passenger vehicle.
I was going to say expansive, and then he said right size, but I mean expansive in the opportunity. And I was like, right size? No, bigger. Think bigger. Yes, in the opportunity, it is expansive.
So I get fired if I don't say Michigan Central, and I get funding pulled if I don't say Michigan. So obviously that part. But ultimately, the future mobility is going to be there if we create a place where people want to be, right? And whether those are founders, whether those are funders, whether those are people that live there today and want to continue to live there, that is our overall focus. Is just creating all of those aspects that go into where people want to be.
The history of mobility is Detroit. The future of mobility is Detroit. And what Mark said.
Nice. I love it. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Right after this, we're having a little New Lab happy hour, so please stay. And if you have any questions for these lovely people, we'll all be around. But thank you, everyone.